No one ever doubted that this biblical history was real. We live by it. Now that they doubt it, now when we walk, the stones are speaking.
We are with Doron Spielman. Great to have you on InGrace, and man, what a location.
Listen, there's no better place than here. It's when they say a local phone call, this is really local.
This is local. I mean, we're standing on the Mount of Olives. This is a significant place for Judaism and, of course, Christianity. This is an important place for us, too. But we're here to talk about your book. I've absolutely loved it. I've enjoyed it so much. To me, it's like a thriller. It has archaeology, it has intrigue, it has geopolitics in it. You also are a spokesman for the IDF. And so all of this comes together in this book, When the Stones Speak.
Here it is.
And there it is.
Here it is.
That's amazing. And I appreciate you signing that for me. I did read this. I had a member of my church give it to me, and I already wanted to talk to you about this book. What's amazing to me is on the Mount of Olives, Jesus went down the Mount of Olives on a donkey, and the people were saying, Hosanna. And they said, tell the people to stop saying that. And he said, if they didn't say it, the stones would cry out, which is pretty amazing that he would say that. And then all these years later, we have a book, The Stones Speak. But you have done a life work at the City of David. And I want to talk to you about that life work and how that has all come together to prove conclusively that the Jewish people are the indigenous people of Israel.
You are now my spokesman because this is actually, it seems so obvious, Jim, and to your viewers, because we've known for thousands of years. It's in the Jewish Bible, it's in the Christian scriptures, it's even in the Quran that the Jewish people are indigenous to the land of Israel. But today, and having served in Gaza, that is the chant that's coming out of Hamas against people in the United States that are trying to track down any pro-Israel Jews. They're claiming that the Jews are colonialists. How can we be colonialists in our own land? And when you say the stones speak, I mean, we have behind us the largest Jewish cemetery in the world. You've got people who've passed on to the other world right here. Why are they buried here, across from the Temple Mount? Because that stone speaks to so many people.
Yeah.
And so this is really the epicenter of the Bible, of the proof of the indigenous Jews, and of those who want to try to stop it.
Ze'ev Orenstein, great to see you, and I love where we're sitting. We're sitting at the City of David.
That's right.
Give us like a 2-minute, what is the City of David?
The City of David is the historic site of biblical Jerusalem. For most people, certainly for Christians, for Jews, if you would ask someone today, close your eyes and imagine biblical Jerusalem, the Jerusalem of the Hebrew Bible. A person might say, I see the Western Wall. I see the old city of Jerusalem. I maybe see the Mount of Olives. All wonderful, important sites. But those sites are not part of the original biblical city of Jerusalem. And yet, up until not that long ago, everyone was looking for Jerusalem in the wrong place, the old city of Jerusalem. But it turns out that the original City of David, the place where the kings of the Bible ruled and the prophets of the Bible preached, is not inside the walls of the old city, but just outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem here in the City of David. This is where King David, King Solomon, King Hezekiah, prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah, this was where they were hanging out, here in the City of David.
When I was first here 25, 30 years ago, it was trashed out. I mean, there was garbage, broken bottles and diapers all over the place. And what they have done with this is incredible.
And the finds are the key. What they now know about this whole part of what was really ancient Jerusalem. This is where Jerusalem came from. Now it's grown greatly, but this is it. This is where Melchizedek was. This is where David was the king.
So we have the Kidron Valley on this side, the Tyropian Valley on the other side, and at the bottom we have the
Pool of Siloam.
And below that,
Hinnom Valley.
The Hinnom Valley. Yeah. So all of these valleys encircle this. So what does Psalm say? As the mountains round about Jerusalem, it's talking about this Jerusalem at that time. So mountains around about Jerusalem, so the Lord is round about his people.
And you have a great vantage point from all of these high points to look down on this beautiful city.
Yeah, this is the original City of David, about 12 acres, and we are at the top of it right now. So we are about right here. And here's the extension when David purchases the land from Araunah and has the temple there, Solomon builds the temple that David acquires the material for, he doubles the size of the city of David. So this is where it all began, right here in the city of David.
Archaeologists love to have their own opinions on stuff, and I think there's no doubt that they found the Palace of David, okay? That to me is a tremendous, incredible discovery.
So Elat Mazar had us dig beneath our offices, and we find this palace of King David.
Directly below.
Directly beneath
I think
my
it's
feet.
right below you. And
She did.
I think she used the Bible to have a way to know kind of where to look.
It was amazing. She opened the Bible, and based just even before we dug, she said, here's the temple. It says David went down from his palace into a fortress when he was attacked by the Jebusites. And she said, well, the fortress, we know where that is.
Oh.
And we found a pillar head, and so she pieced it together, and we dig down underneath my floor, and we find the palace.
So we've entered into the palace.
Jim, I spent much of my career dealing with people called minimalists who said that David didn't exist. He was a mythological person, and if he did exist, he was just ruling over some little backwater in Judea.
And minimizing the scriptures, is that basically
Absolutely.
the term?
So in other words, the Bible is not a reliable historical document, and we had no extra biblical evidence, which they wanted to see, to corroborate that. And then in the early 90s, we got the House of David inscription from Tel Dan.
Yes.
And even the minimalists had to admit that this is talking about David and the kingdom of David. It's in the 9th century, but it's clearly referring to the previous century. And then a few years later, Elat Mazar is able to launch her excavation here in the city of David. And she uncovers this large stone structure, which is a monumental building that dates to the time of King David, what we would call the Iron Age 2A, or around the year 1000. And over a period of years, she exposes this complete structure that we see all around us.
There was a woman, she was an archaeologist, kind of a well-known woman, the granddaughter of a very famous archaeologist. Her name was Elat Mazar. And she read the Bible, and she knew that there was to be a palace at the top of the hill. And so she started to dig down almost 20 years ago, and guess what she found?
What?
This. She found a massive wall. Anytime you find a massive wall in olden days, it means like a city wall, a monumental building. And this is what she believes is the palace of the king of Israel. Who would be the king of Israel?
David?
David. David was the first king of Israel that had his palace in Jerusalem.
So 2005, just beneath where we're standing right now, we have our visitor center. A woman by the name of Dr. Elat Mazar, world-renowned archaeologist, she comes into our offices and says, you need to move your visitor center. We ask her why. She says, beneath your feet, you will find the palace of King David.
How would she have?
That's what we wanted to
known
know.
that?
We're like,
Yeah.
we're not going to move our visitor center. What on earth are you talking about? What makes you so certain right beneath our visitor center is where King David had his palace? So she had two answers, very simple ones. First, the city of David is a city on a hill. If you're going to have a city on a hill, where would you expect to find the palace?
Top.
Top of the hill. She
Yeah.
says, this is the top of the city of David. This is where you would find the palace. Now, we could have said, well, look, 3,000 years ago during the time of David, maybe people built their palaces at the bottom of the hill. Maybe they built them in the middle of the hill. We're not going to move our visitor center just because. Were you to be queen today, you would build your palace right here. What else do you have to support your theory? So she shows us something found about 60 years ago on the slope that our visitor center was sitting atop. And she shows us a royal Phoenician capital.
Wow.
Now, Phoenicia is modern-day Lebanon. And imagine, the White House, the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. They have these big columns in front, and on top of the columns, you have what looks like a capital, a big, rectangular stone. And she says that this royal Phoenician capital proves that this would have been the location of King David's palace.
And that was found in a previous
By
excavation.
Kathleen Kenyon,
Yes.
back some 60 years ago.
Yeah. Another really amazing thing they found, look at right here. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
The top of a column is called a capital. A capital. And they found a Proto-Eloic capital, which means it's a certain time. Now let's walk over here, and there's actually a replica of that capital that she found. You see that? That means that it was a very significant building that had big columns and big capitals. They found one of these right here. And so this might be, look at here, this might be what it looked like when David was standing, looking out of his palace.
And we said to her, what on earth does a royal Phoenician capital have to do with David and where he built his palace? So she said to us, if you knew the Bible, like I know the Bible, you wouldn't ask questions like that. So what will help us out? She says, if you open up to 2 Samuel, chapter 5, King David has done the original mission impossible. He has managed to somehow conquer a city, Jerusalem, that was a Canaanite stronghold, a Jebusite stronghold, that according to the biblical account, some 400 years, no one was able to conquer. Now, how does David conquer the unconquerable? Maybe we'll get into that. But somehow he finds a way to conquer Jerusalem and make it his capital city of his kingdom. And the next thing the Bible tells us in 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 11, is that King David turns to his neighbors in the north, to the Phoenicians. And it says what? That King Hiram of Tyre sent envoys to David with cedar logs, carpenters, and stonemasons, and they built a palace for David. So Dr. Mazar says, why do we find a royal Phoenician capital here in the city of David? Because it was the Phoenicians who built David's palace. Wonderful. So what happens next? Dr. Mazar from the Hebrew University, together with the Israel Antiquities Authority, they come, they begin to dig. They find to the north, to the east, walls up to 20 feet thick. The walls are thicker than the walls in the White House. It's clear that it was a monumental structure. But now the question is, who was living there? From what time period? Dr. Mazar finds at the base of the walls pottery and other organic material, which she dates to 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago is the time of David. So she announces to the world, I have discovered King David's palace. So now what happens next? Scholars, archaeologists, they come and say, well, show us the evidence. And she does. And some agree and say, yes, this could very well be the location of King David's palace. Others say, Dr. Mazar, what you date to the time of David, we date to a little bit after David. So what's the debate surrounding that excavation today? It's not so much what that area was. There's near consensus that that was the royal government center of the Davidic dynasty, the original Capitol Hill. The question is, who was living there? Was it King David or his grandson? Personally, it's not keeping me awake at night, right? The Davidic dynasty was ruling from that palace right beneath our feet.
Scott, these are some massive steps.
Monumental. And so picture that you're coming to see David. This is how you get in. You're bringing a gift. You're going to come make a petition or whatever it might be. We don't know where his throne would have been, but somewhere back here, this is the monumental entrance. And so these are massive stones.
Why don't we walk up the steps?
Okay, so here we go. Mazar was able to date these steps from the pottery and from carbon dating to the time of David, which is the 10th century BC. And look again at the size of those.
Amazing.
So you're entering David's palace. The king is over here, and you're going to go make your petition before the king. His view of Zion was so unique. Zion is the glory of the nations, the joy of all the earth. Well, in reality, as you're seeing, it's 12 acres.
Yeah.
Mesopotamia has very advanced civilizations. Egypt has very advanced civilizations.
And we went to the museum, the Oriental Museum in Chicago. We saw the evidence of the richness and massiveness of the civilization.
1,000 times more grand than this.
So why was this so grand to David?
But from David's perspective, Zion was the glory of the nations because this is where God lived. This is where God dwelt.
It's just mind-boggling that that was found. And that would be enough for most archaeological sites. But no, not for you guys, because you guys have also found a altar site a little bit further down the hill. Kind of describe what was found there in that cultic site.
The site goes out of use some 2,700 years ago. It is a multi-chambered site, and it's one of the big mysteries in Jerusalem as to what was the purpose of this site. You find in one chamber what appears to be an olive press. In the next chamber, what appears to be a sacrificial altar. In the next chamber, what appears to be a prayer altar, what you might call in Hebrew in the Bible a matzeva, where you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when they pray to the Lord, they would have this single stone raised altar. They'd pour some olive oil on it. And so we find one of those. And then you find another chamber with some mysterious engravings on the floor, seemingly some type of important storage room carved into the mountainside. Behind it, it's clear that someone went to a lot of effort thousands of years ago to build this site or really dig this site into the side of the mountain.
So we have small olive press here, small a place where you are doing olive oil. For what you need to do this olive oil? You can go to the market, buy 2-3 jars of olive oil and put it here and that's it. Why need it? And this is the first question that we ask, but we know what we have here. This is olive press.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We continue moving from our excavation to where I'm standing, here in this place. And what we found first, that there's a large steps here. And the people coming to this room from there, from the area of the spring. And if you look here, the stairs here that you can walk inside to this area from here.
So you said the spring, so this is the Gihon?
The Gihon is here, it's 1 second from here.
Wow.
We're very connected to the spring, so.
Okay.
The spring very close where we are standing, and the people came from here. And what we see in here a platform in the corner. This is where they build the altar. We have a channel bringing the blood or whatever juice that go coming out from the altar, and then you collect it here.
You have 2 items now.
Now I have 2 items. I have another item. I have another room there. This was storage room, and it's fantastic. It was very, very surprised that we found that pillar here. It was covered with dirt. Then we started to take off all the dirt from around, and we saw the base of the pillar with the small stone all over around to keep it as it is. And then it was very, very interesting what is doing here.
What's the Hebrew word for the standing stone?
Matzeba. So it was very, very interesting what that stone doing here. And then we continue walking in this room. All what we found here, wherever we go, we are surprised. We have that V's that cutting in the rock. And then I just started thinking maybe this was a base to tripod. Wooden tripod. Why you need tripod here? For what reason?
A table or something like that?
No. When you sacrifice animal, you must to skin the animal. And if you skin the animal, you must to hang the animal. And then you build a tripod to hang the animal, and then you skin the animal, and the skin going to the priest.
I see.
And then what they are doing, they're taking part of it. So when you skinning the animals and doing all of that job, you need to collect the blood.
Yeah.
Okay, so all this area here for prepare the animal to the sacrifice. Here, the priest taking part of it, the other people taking part of it, and doing all what they need to do, because that we have the holes here for the animals.
Okay.
Before they kill them, before they skin them, before whatever they're doing, and then they're doing whatever they need.
My sense is that must have been some type of ritual worship area pre-temple times. Now, what strengthens that theory, I believe? The Bible tells us that during the Davidic dynasty, there was something that was very problematic in the kingdom, which was private worship areas. Now, the Bible's very clear. Up until there was a temple on the Temple Mount, you could worship wherever you want. You could build an altar in your backyard, have a good time. But once there's a Temple of Solomon on the Temple Mount, the only place you could bring sacrifice is at the temple. But what's the problem? Sometimes it's inconvenient. It's like, oh, you really want to take off a week from work to like trek to Jerusalem and get the animal. It's just much easier. Just do a barbecue in your backyard. And so people, they were not all coming to the temple. They were doing their own thing. And the prophets are raging and saying, you got to stop this private worship. God doesn't like it. You got to come to the temple. But it was falling on deaf ears until the time of Hezekiah. Hezekiah, a couple of centuries after David, he comes along, and it says one of the things that he does, he destroys all the sites of private worship. And yet there's something strange, because this area that we find in the city of David, this worship area, wasn't destroyed. It was buried. It was put out of commission during the time of Hezekiah.
It looked intentional.
Right, that someone, again, didn't destroy it, didn't shatter it. They just made sure no one was ever going to use it again. So now that begs the question, why?
Yeah.
Why not destroy it like all the others?
Yeah.
And so here's where there's a theory, which is maybe, possibly, Hezekiah said, how could I destroy the site which represented the personal worship area of my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, King David? It's true, we can't have anyone worshiping there today because it's a problem. You got to go to the temple. At the same time, I can't bring myself to destroy it. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to make sure no one ever uses it again. I'm going to bury it. Is that 100% what happened? Maybe. right? Maybe we'll find something else there that will shed light on a different possibility. But it's exciting as to what that site may represent.
Yeah, and I've been in there, and I believe it was also found more ancient pottery from the time of Abraham.
Sure.
And so then you could, in your imagination, go back to another king priest that ruled in the city of Salem, which was Melchizedek.
That's right.
And Melchizedek is mentioned there in Genesis. Abraham paid tithes, mentioned in the Psalms, mentioned in the book of Hebrews, the Christian book. And so in my imagination, I can see David saying, hey, this is the worship place of Melchizedek, and making it his place of worship since he couldn't build the temple.
And all the more so why Hezekiah may have said, whether it's Melchizedek, Abraham, David, you know what? We can't destroy this place.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, the timing, right, Jim? It's like,
The timing.
no one ever doubted that this biblical history was real. We live by it. Now that they doubt it, now when we walk, the stones are speaking. And that's why I call the book When the Stones Speak, which is Elat Mazar's line, right? Whenever anybody would argue, she would say, let the stones tell their story. Now, at the moment of need, it's like a cry out from the ground. Make a stand. Because today, I think we have no choice but to make a stand. You're either in or you're out.
That's right. There's no gray area anymore. And after what happened in Gaza, I don't know how the world can be against the Jewish people still, but it's happening.
Yeah.
We know it happened in Colorado recently. We know it happened in Washington, D.C. A woman that I had just been at the embassy after the National Day of Prayer, she checked me in. I later learned that was Sarah Milgram. I had also met her husband when we watched the Hamas footage.
Oh my gosh.
So I knew them, and not well, but I'd met them. And to know that this is happening in the United States of America, just after October 7th, we had a solidarity event with the Jewish people in Skokie, a big Jewish area. And the Skokie chief of police gets on the PA at the end of the event and says, if you're Jewish, you cannot go to your car unescorted because there's protesters out there. I'm thinking,
I saw that in the news.
this is in the United States. And I had the privilege of reading a psalm at that event. And I'm like, I've got to do more. And so we're trying to do everything we can to tell the truth, the correct truth. And I think the city of David shouts the truth of the Jewish people, because anyone previous to the Jewish people, there are not a people anymore. The Canaanites are extinct. There are no Philistines, You, though, we're here.
We were here, and you're touching my heart with what you're saying, because I was working on this book, and I had an initial draft, and I was supposed to sit with my editor on October 8th. October 7th, I go in the army, say goodbye to my family, and I'm gone. And it was really at the Gaza border, as I explained in the book, when I realized the massacre and what they called it, the Al-Aqsa flood.
Yeah.
They didn't call it over God, they called it over this golden dome.
That's right.
Right here. Why?
Right.
Because this is what it's about. And that's when I called my wife, I said, Sarah, I don't know where I'll find the strength, but for me, this book is I wrote it because I feel like everyone who wants to stand up, they need this information, they need this energy. That's why I wrote the book. And that's why I think it became a New York Times bestseller a few weeks ago, because the book is a good book, but people are hungry for the material because they want to stand up. And yes, it's the coming together. This is just a moment in time, I think, that everyone here and all of your viewers will tell their grandchildren. They're going to ask, did you stand with Israel? Because the truth will be known.
Yes.
And you and me and these people, yeah, we stand with Israel.
It's called Area G, right?
Right.
But give us the scoop on this.
Okay, yeah, technical term is Area G, but we call this the SSS, the Stepped Stone Structure.
Scott Stripling
structure. Yes, that's what most people call it. Yeah. No, just kidding. It supports David's palace, or the large stone structure.
So David's palace, where we just were, just right up on top of that, and all of this would have supported the walls. That's right. The outside walls of his palace.
We are now in the fortress of Zion, and we call it the Millo. There's some debate among archaeologists now whether this is the biblical Millo or whether it's down by the Gihon Spring, but for now we assume that this is the actual Millo, and it's a supporting terrace built probably by the Jebusites in the late Bronze Age and then re-fortified by David. And really interestingly, we have an Israelite house built into it from the Iron Age. And so these are the remains of the house of Ahiel. And we know it's his house because his name was found there. So we've got an inscription, several inscriptions here, but one there with his name on it. And Jim, I can show you what the house looked like. So this is a typical Iron Age Israelite house, what we call the four-roomed house, that is built up against and into this Millo. Now, you were asking earlier about what David from his palace, how he may have seen Bathsheba. Okay, now do you get the picture?
Yeah.
David's there, here's the roof. Picture of the roof is just 10, 12 feet below the top of the Millo. David is looking down on Bathsheba.
And of course, his palace would have gone up, so he would have been higher even
That's right.
than this, looking down on houses that were built into the Millo. So tell me what that means. What is that? Millo?
Well, there's some debate about what the Millo means. It's a tower, it's a structure, it's a terrace.
It's a Hebrew word.
It's a Hebrew word. It's mentioned in the Bible that Solomon rebuilt or refortified the Millo.
Okay.
Remember, we're in an earthquake zone here, in a seismic zone. So you get major earthquakes every generation or two, and we're overdue right now, by the way.
Thank you.
So when you get damage, then things have to be refortified.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so then we have this.
Okay, so this was found right below us, and it's called the seal of Gedaliah, mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 38 as a scribe at the time. Now, they're royal scribes, and so the royal scribes are next to the palace. So this tells us that not only was this David's palace, but that it was used subsequently by the other Israelite rulers. And so you can see here the name, and the way that this works is you take a lump of clay,
Which is this.
just raw
That
clay,
is raw clay.
and it's either impressed with a signet ring or a stamp with the name on there.
And that leaves that impression, and that's the name of the scribe?
Of the scribe, that's right. And it seals a written document. And normally it would be like right here on the paper. And what that means is that if you get this from me, let's say that I'm Gedaliah and you are the king, then that comes to you, you know it hasn't been opened. The seal hasn't been broken. Think of Revelation, there's 7 seals. So as you unroll the scroll, you come to another seal and then to another seal. So here, you've got a perfect bula. Now the clay is not fired unless there's a secondary fire. And guess what happened in Jerusalem in 587?
Exactly.
The Babylonians set the city on fire, and this seal then becomes like pottery. It's rock hard.
Yeah.
The paper's burned up,
Right.
but the seal remains as a testament to what happened 2,700 years ago, just as it's recorded in the Bible.
And as they find this, they find it in the Bible. And so again, verisimilitude.
Absolutely. Verisimilitude. The archaeologist who finds it goes, wait a minute, I recognize that name from the Bible. And there's other biblical names, 3 other biblical names that are found right in this area too.
Incredible.
So you're reading real history, real places, real events.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Now, there's a parking lot just behind me that for years was a parking lot.
That's right.
And people would just come in and park and leave. And one day a fence went up, and it would surprise the people here. And it turned out that the Palestinian Authority was trying to purchase that and almost did. So go through some of those things that are found under Givati.
So you have this parking lot excavation. It's the Givati parking lot excavation. And it's a funny name for an archaeological excavation. As you mentioned, there was a parking lot there. And we had to move our visitor center originally because of the excavation of Dr. Elat Mazar, who finds beneath our visitor center what could very well be the location of King David's palace. So we said, well, where are we going to put our visitor center now? So then we had the idea, well, let's purchase the parking lot and we'll build our visitor center across the street. And the Israel Antiquities Authority says, well, hold on a second. Before you build anything, we need to make sure there's nothing exciting beneath the asphalt. They come with ground penetrating radar. They scan down and say there are more than 10 layers of ancient Jerusalem civilization located beneath your feet. Wow. Now, clearly our visitor center is not there yet because it's today one of the largest active archaeological excavations going on in the entire country. And we find remnants going back, some 2,700 plus years. But what we've done is we've preserved layer atop layer in this excavation so that no matter who comes to the city of David, they can see that they too have a part in the story, in the heritage and the history of what's happened here in Jerusalem, in the city of David. And since we're talking so much about David and the house of David and the Davidic dynasty, I'll share a discovery that is quite significant. Because when you think of the Davidic dynasty, you might think of people like King David, King Solomon, King Hezekiah. But the Bible says that there was another king in that dynasty that was perhaps the most righteous of them all. And that is King Josiah. Doesn't get a lot of love, doesn't get a lot of attention. You have to be a little bit more of a Bible scholar to know his story. But King Josiah, God says there's no one who was like him before him or after him of all the kings of the house of David. And up until a few years ago, there was no archaeological evidence of the existence of his kingdom until in the excavation in the Givati parking lot, a small clay seal dating back some 2,600 years or so was discovered. And it says on it, in ancient Hebrew writing, Nathan Melech, servant of the king. And I said, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Except the archaeologists, they checked and they found that in 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 11, as it recounts the religious reformations of King Josiah, it references a chamberlain, a steward by the name of Nathan Melech, servant of the king. It represents the first archaeological evidence, and it's found actually in what's believed to be a royal administrative area in the excavation over there, dating back to that time as well. So you have the palace excavation, the royal government center of the Davidic dynasty is more or less where we're sitting right now. And you're talking about across the street, there's administrative buildings where this royal steward or chamberlain is sitting, and we find his clay seal impression. There you go, right? Evidence of the rule of King Josiah. And I'll share another thing that we find in an excavation, which is personally meaningful to me. We find a small seal dating back some 2,500 years. And the name on it is Eliana, daughter of Gael. Now, what's unique about this seal? You could probably count on one hand the number of seals some 2,500 years ago that have on it the name of a woman, right? Usually the seals that we find belong to men. So what does that mean? It means this woman, Eliana, daughter of Gael, she was important. Now, she's not mentioned in the Bible, so we can't say exactly who she was. But clearly, she must have been maybe a member of the royal family, maybe a political leader, a cultural leader, an influencer of some kind, because she had her own seal. Now, why is this find special to me? I have a daughter named Eliana. And when we found this seal, I went home and I told my daughter, we found a seal with your name on it in ancient Hebrew writing. And she was excited. And I said to her, you have a lot in common with this Eliana. She says, well, really, what else aside from a name do I have in common? I said, well, you're both Jewish. You're both from Jerusalem. You both speak the same language, worship the same God, have the same customs, traditions, festivals as that Eliana from 2,500 years ago. I said to her, who else, how many other nations or peoples can go back 2,500 years and say that they have all those things in common with their ancestors?
I can say probably zero.
That's right. Yeah. I told my daughter.
Wow.
I said, the reason why we're here today in Jerusalem is not because of anti-Semitism. It's not because of the Holocaust. It's not because of persecution, but it's because this is where we've been for thousands and thousands of years. And again, every single day here in the city of David, we're unearthing those antiquities, showing not simply as a matter of faith, but as a matter of fact, that this is where our roots are. This is where our heritage is, here in the city of David in Jerusalem.
It's miraculous. It truly is. And this is something that God said.
That's right.
That the people would be dispersed, but regathered. And I am thankful to be living in the day of the regathering, and it continues. The city of David is an amazing place, a place that has so much history, a place that really helps you understand the formation of and the growth of the city of Jerusalem. So we're going to bring more about this incredible story. And it's not just about the archaeology there. It's about the politics. It's about the attempts to silence real Jewish history. And we have so much more next time, and I encourage you to join us then. But before we go, let me remind you that it was here in Israel that the Savior came. The prophets, the Jewish prophets, predicted a Savior, a person that was going to come. And a lot of details about that person were predicted. And then there was a man 2,000 years ago that lived and did miracles and was declared innocent 3 times by the Romans and still condemned to death. He didn't die as a result of anybody killing him. He gave his life willingly. His name is Yeshua. That's his Hebrew name. That's his authentic name. We call him Jesus in English. He died on the cross, he rose again the 3rd day, and he's coming back to this city of Jerusalem. And he invites anyone, everyone, to believe in him, to trust in him for everlasting life. Because we're sinners, we can't save ourselves, Therefore, we need a Savior, and his name is Jesus. If you will trust in him, you will be saved today, tomorrow, and forever. I would love to show you this land. Would you consider coming to Israel with InGrace? It would be amazing to have you here to see these sites, especially the city of David. Also, don't forget to watch all the other InGrace Israel YouTube episodes, and we have another YouTube channel called InGrace Adventures. Also, we encourage you to go to ingrace.tv to look at all of our other resources, products, and helps, and there you could also contribute toward the ministry that God has called us to do. So until next time, may God richly bless you and your family, and I can't wait to see you in Israel one day next year in Jerusalem.
Record every single InGrace episode. You will be so blessed as we learn all about God's world and God's Word. InGrace is a viewer-supported ministry. Thank you for your prayers and gifts.